I grew up in a small village, in a small county, on a small island. I'm an Irish ramen chef, and my name is Brian Donnelly. David Chang, American entrepreneur and chef, said, Ireland ruined his thesis. Out of trouble and famine comes a great food culture. Chang's right. Ireland doesn't have a food culture. We have alcohol. Instead of giving the world Parmesan, caviar, and kimchi, we gave it Bushmills, Baileys, and Guinness. Food's not our thing. We've lost the traditions that used to unify us as a people. And I'm very fortunate as a child to have experienced those traditions, working on my grandparents' farm as a child. They did things the old-fashioned way. And it wasn't because it was cool, or it wasn't because it made them more money. It was because it's how they knew how to do it. So we milked cows by hand, we churned butter, we made bacon, we cured hams, we cut turf. Cutting turf is back-breaking work, and it's hungry work. So every time that we would go to the bog, we'd bring our lunch with us, including the butter, and we'd dig a hole in the bog and put our food in there for the day. The butter would stay there maybe all week, and we'd use it as and when we needed it. Now that may sound a little bit gross, eating food out of a dirt hole, but when you think about it, a bog's the perfect place to store food. It's low temperature and it's low oxygen, so it's ideal for preservation. And there's bog butter that's thousands of years old, been dug up all across Ireland, and some of it's still usable to this day. I didn't know it at the time, but I may have been one of the last generations to have touched that kind of knowledge. On the upside, working as a low-paid child is great training for working in high-end restaurants. Yeah. Now I'm one of the really lucky people in the world. I'm doing the exact job that I have always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be a chef. As a child, I remember watching a TV cookery program, and there was a small, fat, tubby French chef explaining why he had purchased a lamb. And he ran his hand over the carcass. He was explaining what each individual piece of that animal was going to do. He cooked up the meal and presented it, and in that moment I knew food was going to be my life. I was 6 years old, and that chef was Albert Roux. I knew that I wanted to cook food that really, really connected with people at a deep level. So at 13, I started my apprenticeship in a professional kitchen. And by 17, I was working in Ballymaloe House in Cork. At 18, I was working for Gary Rose in London, where we won a Michelin star cooking traditional British food. And after that, I worked for Ramsay, Roux, and the list goes on and on and on. And after all of that experience, the question that I'm asked most to this day is, how do you chop onions fast? And my answer is always the same. If you want to chop onions fast, chop a lot of onions. Simple. Now roll on several decades, and I'm hitting 40 years old. I'm still cooking in these restaurants, but I'm no longer enjoying it. I still want to be a chef, I still want to cook, but I don't really understand why I'm not connecting with the thing that I'm doing. And I'm looking at the people that are eating the food, and there's not a connection there either. I realize there's an amazing amount of BS being spoken about what we're doing. People are searching for a sense of place, people are looking for different things, but really it's all about technique. We lost complete sight of what we're doing. Now, there are guys in the world who are doing brilliant things with food, like Rennie Redzepi, Massimo Bottura, Dan Barber, all unbelievable chefs. But the seats of the restaurants are limited, and the price per plate is extremely high. So it really is just the food for the elite. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to create a business that did something different. So what did I do? Well, I did everything. I started an online business. Nobody bought anything. I delivered hot food. I delivered cold food. Nobody bought anything. I created healthy food, unhealthy food, vegan food. I even created a fry pie. Nobody came. And I couldn't understand why. So by the middle of 2016, I arrived home and I realized there was too much noise. I had too much noise going on. And I walked in and I packed up my cookery book library. It was 150 plus books. Packed it in the car and took it to the charity shop and gave it all away. I bent all the ideas and thoughts that I had about what I knew about food and chucked it. It was time to move on. It was time to find some silence and understand what it is that I need to do. I had nothing left, flour and water, so I decided to make noodles. I looked eastwards and found Japan and realized that there's a lot of similarities between us. People say there isn't, but Japan's an island, we're an island. They have seaweed, we have seaweed. They have pigs, we have pigs. They have mushrooms, we have mushrooms. Our most famous import, our most famous food, the potato, is an import. And it was our stumbling block. It's the thing that stopped us progressing. And a bit of colonialism on the side. And I figured to myself, if we didn't have those things in our life, what would our history be? It would probably be very, very different. So I said, stuff it. I'm going to create something that's uniquely Northern Irish or Irish. It just happens to be in a Japanese package. And that's where the rebellion came from. I wanted to create something that was new and different, but recognizable at the same time. So, how did I go about that? Now, to create a fast food restaurant that comes from sustainable sources has proved not to be successful. Lots of guys have tried to do it, and lots of guys have failed. How was I going to be different? How was I going to succeed? I looked to the on-demand economy, right? And I said to myself, what are these guys doing that's so different? I looked to the big players in the food field, Witherspoon, Subway's, Domino's, McDonald's, all the enemies. What are they doing that's so different? What they're doing is they're giving people what they want. So I'm like, okay, that's easy. I'll just do that. I'll give people what they want. And what people want is they want something fast. And they want something that's value. Maybe not nutritionally valuable, maybe not in terms of real money valuable, but perceived value. I wanted to give people something that was true value. We also looked at Amazon. That's a good company to sort of take your lead from, isn't it? It's super successful. And I looked at things that Jeff Bezos was saying. And he's saying the customer is the hero. Put the customer first. Reverse engineer the customer journey back and discover what it is they want and then make that thing and give it to them. I mean, that all sounds really simple. But in chef world, you create a dish and you assume everybody's going to love it. And you go to a restaurant and you eat that dish and you're like, it's not great. Mediocre. They've never asked the question, what do you want? We asked that question. So people wanted fast food. I wanted to use sustainable sources. I wanted to do fast, ramen. I then started to read a book by Joe Salatin, who's an American farmer. And he's really gone against the grain. He's an amazing guy. He's bucked conventional farming, and he's made a load of money doing it. He hasn't been very popular with a lot of the big lobbyists in America because he's gone against everything they've said. But he starts everything with the ground level, the soil. His great phrase is, nobody ever asks about the earthworms. And I think that's a brilliant thing. So when I go out and talk to a farmer, I'm not looking to hear about how he finished off his meat or how he can get a higher yield using the latest technology or if he's organic. I only care about delicious and right. If he talks to me about biodiversity, about hedgerows, about clover, about naturally occurring nitrogen in the soil, I'm on board. So we found a guy like that called Kenny Gracie. And Kenny runs a pork business in Tandragee, and he makes amazing food. But it wasn't always like that. He used to be a conventional farmer, raising pigs in the conventional way. High vet bills, high housing bills, high feed bills, etc. But he wasn't making any money. And then on top of that, he had health problems. His doctor advised him to eat a low-fat, white-protein diet, and it didn't seem to be working. He's a man of his own mind, so he bent the doctor's advice and started to eat his own traditionally reared pork. His health improved. He looked at his business and realized he got a better yield in money terms from these animals. Not because of weight or anything, but because he didn't have to spend money on vet bills and housing bills and feed bills. They were roaming about freely. So he binned conventional farming. And it worked for him. All I had to do was work out, how do I use that guy in my fast food? Towards the end of 2016, I stripped everything away. If it was not central to your eating enjoyment, it didn't exist. We don't even have a printed menu. You can find all of our stuff online. You can order it through Deliveroo. It's all there. We don't have beautiful concrete lampshades, which I wanted to get. But they don't add any value to you. And they certainly don't shed any light on the real food that we're doing. These guys are heretics. And I stand alongside them. Joel Salatin, Kenny Gracie, and people like him. Now, we're not on a 100% sustainable food business. But we're doing what we can, little by little. We're not letting the drive for perfection be the enemy of good. We're trying to win people over and advertise our business one mouthful and one bowl at a time. Robert Stevens, the founder of Geek Squad, said, marketing is a tax on the unremarkable. And we don't want to be unremarkable. We want to win this battle one bowl at a time. Thank you. All right, well, cheers.